Good afternoon and welcome to The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 31st of August. Trump dodges a question about the accused teen shooter in Kenosha. The president needs another 48 hours to figure out what to say about the killings that happened 4 days earlier. But Donald Trump Jr. retweets a message supporting Kyle Rittenhouse. A judge also grants the Trump campaign a request to block thousands of Iowa absentee ballots. And the officer who pressed his knee on George Floyd's neck, causing his death, has asked for his charges to be dismissed. A Christian site raised more than $97,000 for the Kenosha shooting suspect, Kyle Rittenhouse, while other crowdfunds were taken down. Kenosha police arrested volunteers who provided food to protesters. Did an IP address accidentally reveal QAnon's identity? And counter-protester who pulled a gun out on a Black Lives Matter protest in Florida after a fight erupted won't be charged. And Frito-Lay's just recalled a bunch of potato chips. Here's a full list. Let's get to the news. President Donald Trump on Saturday dodged a question about Kyle Rittenhouse, the Illinois teenager and Trump supporter, has been charged with homicide in the shooting deaths of 2 demonstrators in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Trump Jr., meanwhile, retweeted a supportive message about Rittenhouse. The teen traveled to Kenosha protest Tuesday armed with a semi-automatic rifle, according to investigators. The fatal shooting of 2 protesters and wounding one of the volunteer medics was captured on cell phone video. Protesters have been demonstrating in Kenosha against police shooting of a young black father, Jacob Blake. When asked by reporters about the shooting, Trump's response was, and I quote, "You know that's under investigation right now, and they'll be reporting back to me 48 hours, maybe max, and we'll have a comment about it. We're looking at it very, very carefully." The teen was charged Thursday with several crimes, including first-degree intentional homicide and first-degree reckless homicide, first-degree attempted homicide, and illegal possession of a dangerous firearm. Trump Jr.'s tweet, which was posted on Friday supporting Rittenhouse, the original tweet claimed that Rittenhouse traveled to Kenosha to protect businesses and offer his medical support to people, even rioters. Though Afternoon and welcome to The Rundown. I am Captivating Christian, and in this segment we like to talk about the news articles of the day and give my personal opinion on them. Alright, so of course all these views are mine and not reflective of CCNTV necessarily. Alright, so before we get started, let's just say welcome to everybody. If you're new, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and welcome to all of you. You are now my state reps. So to my fan base that's always around, nice to see you, welcome. And to my new subscribers, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that red button that notifies you, so every time I have something that pops up, you are the first ones to know. So anyway, let's get to our stories for the day. Now, this first story, of course, deals with the president, who does not seem like he wants to condemn the young teenager who took it upon, the young teenage thug who took it upon himself to be a vigilante and attack these protesters when he claims that he was going to Kenosha to provide medical support, first to protect businesses and to provide medical support even to rioters, but there were no riots. However, that was not the case. He came there with an automatic rifle to shoot and kill people, okay, in the name of white superiority. I really don't know what to call it. I don't even want to call it in the name of Donald Trump, because that'll be making him some kind of deity or something, which I'm sure that he wouldn't mind being called. But anyway, so this young man took it upon himself to do this, and yet the president will not even condemn the action. So even when people say, oh, he didn't say that there were good people on both sides, this is a prime example that he is okay with the racial fever in this country, and he will continue to pander to those David Dukes of the world and any other Klan or white supremacist, basically Klan member, because he believes in their philosophies and probably is, one of the white sheets, which is more the reason why he definitely needs to go. So vote, 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 people. A judge on Thursday granted the Trump campaign's appeal to block 50,000 absentee ballot requests in an Iowa county. The judge, Ian Thornhill, issued a temporary injunction invalidating 50,000 requests in Lynn County, citing with the campaign that the county's election commissioner overstepped the process by pre-filling them with voters' personal information. The Des Moines Register reported the campaign previously filed lawsuits against Lynn and 2 other counties, claiming that their attempts to send absentee ballots with pre-filled information such as voting pin and driver's license numbers violates a state directive mandating all ballots should be blank upon arrival. The injunction ordered Lynn County's auditor to contact voters and receive the absentee ballot to inform them that the forms should have not been pre-filled with their information and cannot be processed. Now, voters will have to submit new blank requests for absentee ballots or vote in person on Election Day, November 3rd. In July, a second judge in Iowa ruled in favor of the campaign and ordered Woodsboro to invalidate at least 14,000 absentee ballot requests. The move comes as Trump has criticized the mail-in voting in recent weeks, warning that it could lead to a mass amount of voter fraud on Election Day. Senior FBI officials say that we have not seen to date a coordinated national voter fraud effort. In addition, it would be extraordinarily difficult to alter Election Day in this way. Now, this particular story is pretty tricky. It makes me go, in so many ways. But we'll get into that a little bit, as brief as I can without being too long. So, this Wisconsin judge has granted the Trump campaign their request to deny over 50,000 absentee ballots because they claim that the absentee ballots was already filled out with the voters' information on them, right? And the absentee ballot should be blank. Now, that being said, which is true, they should be blank, and the person filling out the ballot should fill out that information him or herself, which is correct. So that would be a reason to deny the ballots. But my question is, who okayed that to begin with? Because I'm thinking there's a lot of stuff done on purpose, then to have it denied for somebody to go, oh no, that's not supposed to be there, when in actuality the actual person in charge of it got that derivative to do it from someone high up, like White House high up, so that it can get kicked back and say, see, look what they're doing. Kind of almost forging the idea of voter fraud by having these things created. Let's not forget that the person who was in charge of this whole attack on voter fraud is a Trump supporter. So it would not surprise me if he had already in place told whatever counties or sent information to the voting blocks like, hey, have these absentee ballots already filled out, and then they come back and go, oh no, they weren't supposed to be filled out. That's against that's against the rules. It doesn't do that. They should be blank, and you should let the voters fill it out. So I'm thinking it's something. It could just be a mistake, but I'm thinking it's something a little fishy in that water to try and sow a whole bit of distrust and dirt into the election process, even by mail-in voting. So that is just my theory, but it just seems a little weird because I've received absentee ballots before and they have not had my information on them, only my address, of course, to send it to me, but everything else was blank and I had to fill that all out myself. So the fact that they received it already pre-filled, I don't know why, but something in me is telling that they had gotten that word before to do that for that purpose. To go, oh, see, look what they're doing. So I'll keep my hands and fingers on this particular story and see if it moves to go a little deeper to who actually gave that okay to have this stuff pre-filled out anyway. So that would be interesting. But moving right along. The attorneys for Derek Chauvin, the man who was captured on video pressing his knee against George Floyd's neck, argued in court on Friday that there is no significant evidence against him. Meanwhile, prosecutors in the case say that they intend to seek stiffer sentences if he and the 3 other fellow former officers who are also facing charges are convicted, saying in court documents filed on Friday that Floyd was vulnerable as he was handcuffed with his chest pressed up against the ground, and he was treated with particular cruelty. Attorney General Keith Ellis' office also noted that the former officers were in a position of authority at the time and inflicted pain upon Mr. Floyd, as witnesses, including multiple children, watched. Floyd, the black man who died on May 25th after Derek Chauvin, who is white, pressed his knee up against George Floyd's neck for nearly 8 minutes as George Floyd said he could not breathe and became motionless. Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder and third-degree murder and manslaughter. The 3 other officers were also charged with aiding and abetting, both second-degree murder and manslaughter. All 4 officers were fired. All right, so here we go with this particular story. Excuse me. So we have, once again, we are talking about Derek Chauvin, who is the police officer, well, the former police officer who played a major part in the death of George Floyd. He is the officer who had his knee, who was videotaped with his knee on George Floyd's neck as he pleaded that he could not breathe, and he continued to do that for almost 8 minutes or so. So, all right, now he is asking, well, his lawyers are asking for lesser charges, actually to get rid of all of the charges. To drop the charges. And for some reason, I just felt like this was coming. It seems like before, when they were not charging police at all, and then there was such a bit of unrest to the point where they decided, okay, we'll charge the police officers as far as, on paper, but we won't prosecute the officers. So then they took it a step further to now they're charging the officers, and now they wait a bit, and then they come back and say, okay, now let's drop the charges. Now that the thrust of the steam of whatever they caused has gone away a bit, now let's revisit it and let's talk about getting rid of some of these charges. It's the same thing that they're doing with the Ahmaud Arbery case. It's like, from the heat of it, you had to go and arrest the people that you hadn't arrested for months after this happened. So then, you get this bit of unrest from the county, the state, the nation to do something. So then you arrest them, but now you let it die down for a bit. Now you want to talk about, let's drop the charges. And it's the same thing here. Let's drop the charges. Drop the charges how? Drop the charges how? There's nothing you could say to validate this whatsoever, especially when the young man was in handcuffs. I mean, there's nothing you can say. You wouldn't say you were trying to subdue him or keep him under control. He was already handcuffed. So there's nothing he could have done that three officers, or four, two on him, the three on him and the one watching, that you four officers could not do together to subdue him and keep him under control. So that I did not understand. I don't know why of course the lawyer is going to do his job and try to fight for the lesser sentence for his client that he can. But the fact that this is even brought up and even questioned, and we're even having this discussion about it, is a bit unfortunate. That even still you are looking for ways to justify your killing. And there's no way you can justify it. It was a lack in judgment, and like everybody else. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of people who are sitting behind bars right now for self-defense killings, either from a spouse or neighbor or a friend or whatever, and they are sitting behind bars with the idea that, they didn't mean to do it or whatever the case may be, but they are still sitting behind prison right now. So, and I don't think you being a police officer makes it any different. So that's just my thought. Hey, this is Captivating Christian here to remind you to tune in to Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. You never know what you might get. A fundraising campaign hosted on a Christian crowdfunding website that said it is raising money for the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting suspect Kyle Rittenhouse generated more than $97,000 by Friday morning. The campaign, which amasses more than 2,000 donations, was quickly approaching its goal of $100,000. Other crowdfunding campaigns supporting the 17-year-old Rittenhouse on GoFundMe and Fundly were taken down shortly after they were created following Rittenhouse's arrest on Wednesday. The Give, Send, Go, which identifies itself as the leader in Christian funding, decided to keep the campaign on its platform active. One of the crowdfunding website founders, Heather Wilson, told Weekly News in a statement on Thursday that the site was committed to giving both sides of the political culture in our society an equal chance to let their voices be heard. Wilson said that Give, Send, Go did not plan to take the campaign down. The campaign's creators identified themselves as friends of Rittenhouse's family from Athens, Georgia. They wrote in the campaign's description that the campaign was intended to raise money for Rittenhouse legal defense because Kyle and his family were undoubtedly in need of money to pay for their legal fees. Kyle Rittenhouse just defended himself from a brutal attack by multiple members of the far leftist group Antifa. The experience was undoubtedly a brutal one, and he was forced to take 2 lives to defend his own. The campaign description says. The description went on to say that Rittenhouse was unfairly charged with murder for an incident that was clearly self-defense. Right, so here we go with this Christian organization that has raised almost $100,000 for Kyle Rittenhouse, the young thug, I'm not even going to say young man, the young thug who killed 2 protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So this Christian group, and this is why I really don't, this whole people using the Bible or the Christian doctrine for certain things, but then yet allowing other things, is totally ridiculous. Anybody who follows the Christian faith knows that, first of all, murder is a no-no. So the fact that you are even praising this murderer is a problem for me. And also, granted, although it was 2 white people that were murdered, let's be very clear, they probably would have preferred or thought initially that it was people of color that were murdered. However, it turns out that it was not. So he has almost raised $100,000. The family is saying it's for his legal funds, the legal fees. However, this particular Christian group says that they kept their funding apparatus up because in this political climate, both sides need a voice. And so that's why they continue to raise money for this young thug. Now, I'm trying to really understand. That's coded, okay? So there's no way you could hide behind that. It's clearly coded because he's a white kid that you feel okay with or justified with what he did. And as a Christian group, I think, again, that speaks volumes to the level in which you like to choose and pick your parts of your Christianity you choose to exercise and the parts you don't. So now with that said, I don't believe that if you're really serious about your religion, you should be side-eyeing all of these white evangelical groups because they are nothing but a group of white supremacist thugs, and they shield themselves or cloak themselves in Christianity and to make you believe that, they're about all people when really they're just about themselves. Remember all that the Ku Klux Klan used to burn crosses, so they believed in Jesus too. So let's not fool ourselves. But what we need to do is know what's happening here and know that places like GoFundMe and all those other funding sites, once they had a GoFundMe for this guy, but once he was convicted, they deleted them. And this is the only group or company that decided to keep his funding going because they're a Christian group and they believe in both sides. That's bullcrap. They're definitely a white supremacist group that cloaks themselves in Christianity and will support this. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the same the funding group that funded all of these other people who have killed unarmed black people like Derek Chapin or George Zimmerman and countless others. I'm sure they have done fundraisers for them as well for their defense funds, right? Yeah, I think it's just a bunch of bull. It is what it is. That's why I say it's best sometimes to not fully follow the systematic system of racism, but have a spiritual grounding for yourself. Because this is crazy. This is definitely sheep's and wolves' clothing. Or wolves in sheep's clothing, rather. I'm sorry. And be sure to join Jay Wilson, Rebel Sun, The Official King Payne, Conscious TV, and Captivating Christian this and every Thursday at 6:45 Central Standard Time, 7:45 Eastern Standard Time for the Gentleman's Panel, where we are not afraid to go there and discuss an array of topics. See you there. 9 people were arrested by the police in Kenosha, Wisconsin for allegedly being outside agitators in a city where they were distributing food to protesters, a director for the nonprofit Kitchen said on Saturday. Jennifer Squirrel, who served on the board of directors for Riot Kitchen, which is an organization based in Seattle, said that the Kenosha police mistakenly arrested the volunteers on Wednesday for investigation of disorderly conduct. The Kenosha Police Department said it focused on 3 vehicles associated with the group after they received a tip from a citizen alerting us to several suspicious vehicles with out-of-state license plate. The officers and the U.S. Marshals surveilled the black school bus, food truck, and minivan and moved in for the arrest when the suspects attempted to fill gas cans with fuel at a gas station, the department says. The Kenosha police are under scrutiny for potentially The Kenosha police are under scrutiny for potentially deliberately shooting Jacob Blake, which set off 3 nights of violent protest, and for allowing a teenager accused of fatally shooting 2 demonstrators to walk away from the scene. All right, and here we go back in Kenosha, right? So we have protesters protesting, and a nonprofit organization out of Seattle decides to go to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and help out by donating food and giving food out to the protesters. Now, the police and the U.S. Marshal Service watched them for a while and said that their vehicles were suspicious, and they got a tip from someone basically saying that they were up to some suspicious activity. So they followed them to a gas station where they watched them fill canisters with gas, and I guess maybe they thought they were going to use them for explosive purposes, and that's where they arrested them. Now again, I call BS on this, mainly because I think there is a motion going around to not only deter protesters, but to deter anyone who's trying to help them. Now, mind you, largely the protests have been focused around police brutality towards black people or people of color. And those who have come out to support in that effort have been other white people. Now, the way to kind of deny or block that system of support is you start arresting and charging the white people who are donating food or out there supporting. You do that enough, it'll deter them and kind of make them a little leery of actually participating and supporting in a protest like this, because a lot of times people have jobs, and one arrest, no matter how small the infraction could risk their employment. So I think that there is a move going on to try and make sure that not only do you quash a movement, but you also stop the support of the movement, and you die that off by these massive arrests of people supporting by volunteering their time to serve food to protesters as they protest against police brutality. Yet the police follow them to watch them get gas and things that they used to cook with, to do what? Arrest them for $150 for each person, and that was 9 people. So yeah, you can imagine it's done as a deterrent. And that's really sad that we are actually living in this. It almost brings, like, I didn't grow up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, definitely during the civil rights movement, so I don't know what it was like personally. All I know is what I've read and what I've watched, and the only thing that seems different is the technology that you can really, really watch this in real time and see these things going on. But it's real unfortunate. It's really sad that at any way they will try to kind of squash this movement and kind of make it as small as possible by cutting off any kind of resources they can. Over the weekend, a rumor started to make its rounds on Twitter among QAnon watchers, which seemed to blow the lid off of a long-stemming mystery. It is said that the mysterious poster, who makes the Q drops, the cryptic messages posted on the message board, a con that give the movement its direction, has been unmasked and revealed to all. And the poster was none other than Akon's owner, Jen Watkins, previously the owner of Akon's forerunner, Akan. Watkins has already given congressional testimony wearing an QAnon pin and stated a political super PAC devoted to bolstering QAnon-friendly candidates. There was already speculation that Q and Watkins were linked, as when 8 Chains went down in August of 2019, the Q poster did not make their drops somewhere else, instead waiting around for months while 8 Chains found a new service provider and rebranded as 8Con. But while it makes sense for Watkins to be responsible for Q's post, there is no conclusive proof of it, and both Jim Watkins and his son Ron, who writes codes for 8Con, deny having any link or knowledge to who Q is, even as speculation has persisted for years that they were behind it. Okay, so if you were anything like me in the beginning, you're like, what? Who or what is this a QAnon, right? You're like, what is this a QAnon stuff? Why do I keep hearing this? Well, like me, I felt the same way, so you're not alone, because this just started like popping up through the news. But however, this is a group of far-right conspiracy theorists who talk about basically saying that there is a group of satanic worshipers that worship pedophilia, and they run a global child sex trafficking group, and they plot against the President of the United States. Now let's dig into just that little bit of like stuff, okay? So I had no idea what it was, and then I happened to read a few stories about it, and because there's some candidates who believe this, and they QAnon candidates, and they believe these theories, and they've been pushing them through, like when in their primaries. They have one lady who has won her primary, and she's basically headed to the House. So it started making me think, like, okay. But then if you look at stuff, like let's look at Jeffrey Epstein, for example, right? So Jeffrey Epstein was definitely a pedophile, right? He definitely had a lot of global sex trafficking things going on, right? But he also knew a lot of big famous people, like the president himself. So it is really funny that this QAnon uh, group thinks it's like a satanic worship of pedophiles that run a global child sex trafficking ring, and they have a plot to destroy the president of the United States when the president himself is included or haven't taken pictures, and Jeffrey Epstein has been at Mar-a-Lago numerous times. Also, there's a witness, a young girl who was young at the time, who was introduced to Donald Trump by Jeffrey Epstein at Mar-a-Lago. So it's like, I'm confused. So anyway, the identity of this particular person behind these Q drops, or these message board posts, actually comes out through their mistake of using an Amazon server, if I'm not mistaken. So they used the Amazon server, but they were able to, people who are really crafty on that dark web was able to discover, because everything has like a mailing, like almost like a trace. You can always trace everything back. Everything has an IP, regardless of the computer has a stamp. So it's like an IP, it's an identifier. So they follow through through that whole dark web thing until they found the identifier. And it actually comes back to be the particular owner of the previous group. Before it was a coon, it was a can, something like that. But anyway, so yeah, they discovered it was this guy, and he's not, they haven't confirmed it or denied it. So it's kind of up in the air. But however, the main thing to take away from all of this is that this particular conspiracy group, right, they're pro-Trumpers, and they have also have a group of candidates that they are funneling into the House and into the Senate races to basically embody support for President Donald Trump. Now, let's not be lackadaisical and not think anything serious about them, because remember, this is how the Tea Party infiltrated into our government. They started sprinkle here, sprinkle there. Next thing you know, it was Tea Party people everywhere, and we were trying to figure out where all these people come from. So please don't sleep on these people, because they out there. Police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin has sparked protests around the country. Yesterday, in front of the Florida Historical Capitol building, a counter-protester pulled a gun out on a Black Lives Matter protester after getting knocked to the ground. After reviewing the incident, the city of Tallahassee has confirmed that the individual, whose identity has not been released, will not face charges. As the Tallahassee Democrat report, the city stated in a press release that the individual had a license to carry a concealed weapon. The city has pointed out that the protest was not permitted, and protesters did not coordinate with the police department ahead of the time to coordinate and ensure safety. The evidence confirmed the physical altercation between numerous protesters and that of the individual who was knocked to the ground and under attack before lawfully defending himself. The evidence confirmed that the physical altercation between numerous protesters and that of the individual who was knocked to the ground and under attack before lawfully defending himself, the press release stated, according to Tallahassee Democrat. The city found that the incident transpired after a white man was pushed by a white protester for documenting the protest, thus sparking a fight. As the counter-protester got up from the ground, he drew a weapon. All right, so here we go. This story to me is a telltale sign of them not shooting their own, right? So here you have a protest for, I guess, police or supportive police and the status quo, and Black Lives Matter supporters in Tallahassee, Florida. Now here's again where it's the Black Lives Matter protest, and it was some white allies in the group, right? So the pro-Trumper, pro-status quo was on the counter side. And I'm sure there was a thing of words back and forth, and the Black Lives Matter protester, him and the counter-protester got into an altercation. The pro-Trumper protester, counter-protester, got knocked to the ground. Then he pulled out his gun, but he did not shoot it at the fellow white man who was on the Black Lives Matter protest line. So he did not shoot it, although he was knocked down. However, the police was right there to apprehend the man, but they did not charge him because he was licensed to carry the gun, and it said he had every lawful right to defend himself because he was attacked. And I can't see how you're attacked if you actually you get up in somebody's face in space and you created an atmosphere for altercation. So it was almost like you wanted some altercation to happen, so you would be justified in shooting and killing someone. But you didn't shoot and kill this particular person because he looked like you. So yeah, there's a time where they don't do that. They don't shoot themselves or people that look like them. They may not agree with their stance on their protest, but a lot of times they won't they won't shoot their own. Now with that young 17-year-old, I don't know, maybe he didn't even think that they were white. Maybe he thought that they were Spanish when he shot them. I'm pretty sure that he didn't think that they were white, and if he did think that they were white, he could not have cared either, and just thought, well, hey, if you with them, then you with them, and you gotta, you get the same fate as they would get. Don't know, but this story was a bit interesting, to say the least, on how and then the police tried to even defend that man and say, well, they weren't, the Tallahassee police, meaning that they didn't even have a permit to be there, and they didn't coordinate with the police department to ensure their safety. So with that being the case, why didn't you disband both groups then? Because if the Black Lives Matter protesters were not cleared to be in that space, so you mean to tell me those pro-Trump, pro-police, white supremacists mixed in the group, they all had permits to be there? Come on, like it's as clear as day. You have one preference towards one group than the other, and I don't know why it's being glossed over like this is non-existent. If you didn't think that the high-ups in a lot of the police departments really have on white sheets, you'd be fooling yourself, because they do. The product recalls keep coming. First it was peaches, onions, now Frito-Lays. Frito-Lay's chips has found a variety of sizes of barbecue flavored potato chips are literally not what they seem, because they are not the right kind of chip at all. as the company revealed in a new bulletin posted by the FDA that bags are being recalled don't actually have the barbecue chips in them, and as such, they may contain allergens, specifically milk, and aren't declared on the label. The recall does not specifically state which other type of chips are accidentally dumped into the barbecue bags, but the fact that milk is being highlighted as a potential allergen suggests that the chips may have a ranch flavor, and those who have milk allergies should take this seriously. Frito-Lay's today issued a voluntary recall of select 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce, 2 5/8 ounce, a 7 3/4 ounce, 12.5 ounce, and 15 ounce bags of Frito-Lay's barbecue flavored potato chips because they may contain undeclared milk ingredients. These recall bags may also be included in the select Frito-Lay's variety packs. People who have allergies or severe sensitivity to milk run the risk of serious or life-threatening allergic reactions. You can find the entire list of recalled products and their UPC codes on the FDA's recall page. The good news is that thus far nobody has reported any allergic reactions after eating mislabeled chips. Still, when it comes to allergies, the risk of potentially seriously health consequences can be high. Hopefully anyone with a milk allergy will note that their barbecue chips aren't actually barbecue and discard them right away. Frito-Lay's offers the following information related to refunds. Consumers with the product noted above can return the product to a retailer for a full refund and contact Frito-Lay's Consumer Relations at 800-352-4477. Again, that's 800-352-4477 between the hours of 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Right. And lastly, if you're a potato chip eater like myself, and especially barbecue, because I don't really do all them other flavors because, I just don't. You're a bit taken back by this because I love the Mystique potato chips, the barbecue kind. So yes, there's been another recall. I know I did the recall on the peaches. I didn't see the story about onions, but if anybody sees that story, you can shoot it to me. It'd be greatly appreciated at CCNetworkTV at gmail.com. Because I didn't see that, so if I get that, I can put that in there too. But yes, Frito-Lay's is having a recall on their potato chips. So apparently their barbecue potato chips are not filled with barbecue. Yeah, so somebody was asleep at the dispensary button, and when they were supposed to pick barbecue for the chips, they probably lit like sour cream or ranch, some other flavor in the barbecue bags, and there are a lot of barbecue bags with some sort of ranch or sour cream, some milk-like product in their chips, and they're not barbecue at all. This, of course, for some people who like ranch and don't mind if they open up their barbecue bag and have ranch or some kind of sour cream and onion flavor or whatever, are fine with, and that's okay. But for those people who do have allergies to dairy products or anything like that, this may be a bit of something that will give you cause and pause, right? So with that said, just be mindful. Please, if you do have a bag that happens to have the ranch flavor in it, like they said, please discard it. You can actually return it to the retailer And you can also call the Frito-Lay's consumer relations at, again, that 800 number, which is 800-352-4477. Again, that's 800-352-4477 between the business hours of 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. All right, so you can send the product into your retailer for a refund, or you can contact the Frito-Lay's Consumer Relations department for that. And again, if you want that number, last time the number is 800-352-4477. So please make sure that you do that. Don't take your health at risk for some potato chips. It's really not that serious. I mean, I know they're good, but they ain't that good. So, just be mindful, just trying to keep everybody safe in this time of Rona and recalls. I mean, this is the word of today is a recall, brought to you by Rona. It's just so crazy. But anyway, thank you all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.